Yeah, I did change, and I'm really glad I changed.
This One's Wife. Netflix. Your shit. This is Damage Control. Hello, I'm HG Tudor. Earlier, I spoke to you about the announcement by the Chief Content Officer of Netflix providing an endorsement of This One's Wife and talking about being excited for the cookery show. She was so excited it made her want to go and cook some pasta that This One's Wife had cooked. Hell, I mean, if there's any endorsement on this planet being said that you want to go and cook some pasta, certainly is right up there at the top, isn't it? On the face of it, this looks like some positive PR for This One's Wife for a change, that Netflix are standing by her, and raises the possibility that the deal just might be renewed. The demise of This One's Wife, perhaps, is not yet upon us. Nevertheless, there's a lot more to it than meets the eye, and as a consequence of this announcement, it behooved me to have a conversation with my PR expert once again, to receive her input into what is really going on behind this announcement by Netflix, by telling us the subtleties of the deal, of what ought to be happening, what ought to be occurring, and isn't, and what Netflix behaviour actually tell us as seen by a PR professional. This, she stated, is classic corporate damage control. She did not beat around the bush in that regard. It was her opening observation about what Netflix had done. And believe me, my PR expert is a prominent individual that has advised a wide range of corporations, government agencies, high net worth individuals, famous people, and understands corporate damage control when she sees it. She's done her fair share of firefighting, and she explained in very clear terms that what Netflix have engaged in is classic corporate damage control, which has been wrapped up in a wafer-thin layer of forced enthusiasm. Essentially, Netflix's chief content officer, Bella Bayaria, did what every good executive does when confronted with an underperforming deal. And it is clear that the deal with the Sussexes has massively underperformed. You can't deny that. Basically, this executive put on her best everything's great face while subtly managing expectations. You see, this was not the tone of someone overseeing a wildly successful partnership. This was the tone of somebody who was desperately trying to convince both the public and themselves that this isn't a sinking ship. The language used wasn't that of someone who was genuinely enthused. It's of somebody who recognizes that This One's Wife is shit, and that they've been sold a shit sandwich, that they have been given lemons and there's even no lemonada to be made from it. Nevertheless, it behooves her to try and sell this to the public and make it seem as if she believes in the Sussexes. But not only does the language demonstrate something different, but also the lack of what they've actually done and the absence of specificity, which is something I will go into in greater particularization shortly. Essentially, Netflix have the cooking show coming up. It's coming, it's great. Please believe me. Bella Bellaria might as well have dropped to the floor, though possibly not sobbing, and pleaded with those there to say, honestly, really, it is great. You've got to believe me. But what else was she going to say? Netflix needs to sell This One's Wife show as a success before it even airs, which is why Bayaria is hyping up with love Meghan as if it is some kind of groundbreaking cultural event. She said, it's such a great take on a lifestyle show. really easy, great takeaways on life. But notice just how vague that is. She doesn't provide any specifics as to why it's great. There's no mention of originality. It's the most generic, positive words imaginable. It's great. It seems as though this Netflix executive, my PR expert has identified, who is head of content no less, doesn't actually possess any further information regarding This One's Wife's work, except from what she saw in the trailer, along with millions of other viewers. Now, this poses the question, why might that be? Could it be because Netflix doesn't like her, that Netflix thinks she's shit, as was established in a previous analysis? Remember, it invested the square root of fuck all into the promotion of this show. What if This One's Wife would not have delayed the show? Would anyone have mentioned it in early February because of what a flop it was? And the worst part of all of this, from a PR perspective, the biggest endorsement from this chief content officer is that it made her want to cook pasta. I was like, oh my God, I want to really do that pasta. That's it. That's it. That's the highlight. Not that it's inspiring or entertaining or a must-watch, just that it might convince someone to make pasta. Now, based on her experience, I asked my PR expert what such language means, and she said, it's desperation. Desperation. If Netflix truly believed in the show, the messaging would be far stronger. Something along the lines of, we know people will fall in love with this series. It's beautifully shot, unique, and will be a global success. Part 3 will really blow your mind. Instead, what we get is no mention of projected viewership, no mention of marketing efforts, no mention of star power, no mention of innovation. Thus, translated, Netflix is simply hoping people will forget about the trailer until they quietly dump the series into the algorithm and move on from it. As to the movie being in development, this, of course, is corporate speak for may never happen. Ah, of course. Meet me at the lake. The project that was supposed to prove that This One's Wife had real Hollywood credibility. And yet, it's still stuck in development limbo. This chief content officer stated, it is in development. It is a great book. She had it and we are happy to do it. This is not the same as saying, yes, this movie is happening. This is not the same as saying, it's greenlit, pre-production is underway. This is Netflix politely confirming they're not pulling the plug yet. In development, my PR expert told me, this is Hollywood code for we don't have a script, we don't have a director, we don't have financing, we don't have a production timeline. Technically, it's not cancelled, but it is nowhere near being a real film. It's a little bit like the jizz in somebody's ball sack being described as a baby. It's way from it. Given how Netflix operates, if they were actually excited about this project, it'd already be in pre-production given the timescales, but it's not. It demonstrates again, Netflix think This One's Wife is shit. Now, in terms of what they really think of the deal from Netflix perspective, Netflix executives will not be in the business of sentimentality. All they care about are performance metrics. And what have the Sussexes got so far? A docuseries that had an initial viewership boost but didn't generate any lasting impact, a dud of a podcast deal that Spotify scrapped after one season, a cooking show that's being soft-launched like an overpriced Goop product, a movie in development that's just really a vague possibility. Netflix naturally is not going to say out loud that the Sussex deal has been a flop, but the chief content officer's language and the fact that her presentation at the event failed to even mention This One's Wife's input says it all. It says they have zero confidence in This One's Wife's ability to create compelling content. It says there is zero urgency to green light the only scripted project attached to her name. It says there is zero mention of long-term collaboration beyond vague things in development statements. The bottom line is that Netflix won't outright dump this one's wife this moment, but they aren't throwing any major weight behind her projects. They will fulfill their contract obligations, keep the PR positive, but not actually put a lot of effort into it. But once this deal runs its course, my PR expert states don't expect a renewal. This is not excitement. This is simply damage control. The language that's used, the absence of enthusiasm and genuine excitement, the absence of promotion, and all of the things that I've mentioned demonstrate that the view from Netflix privately is this one's wife is shit and they're engaged in damage control. This, naturally, is bad news indeed for this one's wife. I'm HG Tudor. Thank you for listening.